So what if you could just tell an API exactly what you wanted, and it gave you just that data, nothing more, nothing less, every single time? Well, that's what we're diving into today. We're going to demystify GraphQL. And trust me, it's not just another developer tool. It's a totally different way of thinking about APIs. It's a query language that really puts you, the client, in the driver's seat.
You've definitely been there, right? You make a call to an API just to get a user's name, but you get back their entire life story. That's called overfetching. Or maybe it's the opposite. You need a user's name and their last 3 blog posts. So you have to make 1, 2, 3 different API calls to piece it all together. That's underfetching. It's this constant headache with traditional APIs.
See, with REST, which is the API style most of us are used to, you're pretty much stuck with these fixed endpoints. Each one gives you a fixed chunk of data. And that can be super inefficient, right? Especially if you're building a mobile app where every bit of data and every millisecond of battery life really, really matters. This exact problem is what sparked the need for something totally new. To solve this, developers had to flip the whole model on its head. Instead of the server dictating what data you get from rigid endpoints, the new thinking was all about focusing on the data itself as a graph of interconnected things. It's a huge shift from, here's what I, the server, have for you, to, hey server, here's what I, the client, actually need. And that is the absolute soul of GraphQL. So what is GraphQL then? Really? Well, think of it like SQL, but for the web. It's a declarative query language for your API. You, on the client side, describe the exact shape of the data you're looking for. Then you just let the server worry about how to go get it. This creates this incredibly flexible layer between your app and all its different data sources.
And you know, this wasn't just some academic idea. GraphQL was born out of a very real, very big problem. Back in 2012, Facebook was in the middle of rebuilding its mobile apps, and they just slammed right into the wall of how slow and clunky REST APIs were on mobile networks. So, they built GraphQL inside Facebook to fix it, to find a better way to fetch all that complex social data. And by 2015, they shared it with the rest of us.
Okay, to really let this sink in, let's step away from the code for a minute. Let's think about something we all understand: ordering food at a restaurant.
A REST API? That's like ordering from a fixed menu. You ask for the steak dinner special, and you get the whole plate. The steak, the potatoes, the green beans, even if you can't stand green beans. With GraphQL, it's like the waiter hands you a list of every single ingredient the kitchen has. You can walk right up to the chef and say, give me the steak, medium rare, and just the potatoes. That's it. You get exactly what you asked for, all on one plate, in one go. No waste, no extra trips for the waiter. So how does this magic actually work? Well, it all comes down to a few key ideas. First, you've got the schema. This is the absolute source of truth, the master blueprint that defines every possible piece of data you could ever ask for. Now, when you want to read data, you send a query. When you want to change things like create, update, or delete data, you send a mutation. And the little worker bees doing the actual work behind the scenes? Those are the resolvers. Each resolver is just a function that knows how to fetch the data for one specific field, whether that data lives in a database, another API, or anywhere else.
All right, that all sounds great in theory, but let's make it real. What does it actually look like when an app asks for data using GraphQL?
And here we go, check this out. On the left, the client is sending a query. It's asking for a list of cities, but it's being super specific. It only wants the UUID and the name for each one. Now look at the response on the right. What's so cool here is that the shape of the JSON response perfectly mirrors the shape of the query. You get exactly what you asked for. No extra fields, no wasted data, it's just clean. Okay, just fetching data efficiently is a huge win. But the real jaw-dropping power of GraphQL? It's the ability to bundle a bunch of different actions into a single network request. This is where it just leaves the old way of doing things in the dust. Just think about this for a second. Imagine you need to do 3 things: create a new user, update another user's profile, and maybe delete a third one. In a typical REST world, that's 1 request, 2 requests, 3 separate round trips to the server. With GraphQL, it's a whole different ballgame. With GraphQL, you can pack all 3 of those operations, the create, the update, and the delete, into one single mutation. You send it off, the server does all 3 things in order, and then it sends you back one single response. 3 different actions, 1 trip to the server. For any kind of complex app, that is an absolute game changer for performance. So it sounds amazing, right? But like any piece of tech, it's not a silver bullet. GraphQL is incredibly powerful, but it definitely comes with its own set of trade-offs, and it's really important to know what you're getting into. So the pros are pretty clear. No more wasted data, way fewer network requests, and the API basically documents itself through something called introspection, which is awesome for developers. But on the flip side, because the client has so much power, they could write a really complex, heavy query that could slow down your server. Caching is also trickier than with REST's simple URLs. And that handy introspection feature, if you're not careful, it can be a security hole for attackers to map out your entire API.
Oh, and here's a classic gotcha that trips up everyone when they're starting out. In GraphQL, your app might get an HTTP 200 OK success code, but the response could actually contain an error. See, unlike REST, GraphQL often puts errors inside a successful response, in a special errors field. It can definitely catch you by surprise if you're not looking for it.
Okay, so taking all of that into account, the pros and the cons, where does GraphQL really, truly shine? When should you reach for it in your toolkit?
The sweet spot is pretty clear. It's a no-brainer for mobile apps or IoT devices where network bandwidth is precious. It's fantastic for apps with really complex nested data, like a social feed with users and posts and comments and likes all tangled together. It also works beautifully as a gateway that sits in front of a messy microservices architecture, making it all look like one clean, unified API. And because front-end developers can just ask for the data they need without waiting for the back-end, it's amazing for moving fast and prototyping new ideas.
At the end of the day, GraphQL is all about giving the client the power to ask for exactly what it needs and get it all back in one perfect, predictable response. So I'll just leave you with this question. What tangled mess of API calls in one of your own projects could you untangle and simplify with just a single, elegant query?